The 2020 census is coming. Make sure everyone gets counted.
So I can count everyone in my house?
Everyone who lives in your house counts for $3,000 in city services.
What about Meowly Cyrus?
Unfortunately not.
Does my baby count as a person?
Yes, your baby does.
Fergalicious is like our baby.
Aww, but no.
How about my crazy Uncle Herbert visiting from Germany? That's getting old.
Sorry.
My grandfather lives with us. Should we count him?
Yes, you do.
A bun in the oven?
Maybe in 9 months.
My best friend?
No.
He's here every day.
Yeah, but no.
What about this baby?
If he lives with you.
Dasher?
This got weird. Let's recap. All living, breathing humans residing full-time in your home count. So make sure you count them.
In the summer of 2018, Peoria Unified School District received some communication from Glendale Community College saying that their Child Development Center was empty and wanting to know if we would be interested in partnering with them to run the Child Development Center.
This partnership has been pretty awesome for the preschool because we've gotten the chance to work with a lot of the new workforce that's coming up through the college. So all the interns that have been coming in and all the people that attend GCC now all know that Peoria does have preschool program and we have a toddler program now.
Our success rate has been serving students and serving the community. We have a wonderful preschool here on campus that we have approximately 12 children that are attending the preschool. Our toddler side, we have 2 toddlers, so we do have open enrollment at this time. The teachers on campus here that are in the classroom are actual GCC graduates. So I like to say that they actually have been my students. They have graduated from the program of early childhood education, and now that they are actually working for Peoria Unified School District.
One of the great advantages of this partnership with Glendale Community College are the interns that are coming into the program. We have students who are in the early childhood program at Glendale Community College who come into the toddler and preschool rooms.
So my students that are going into early childhood education sees the lab here on campus as an added benefit to prepare them to become workforce ready and to see best practices when it comes to early childhood education.
And what color is this?
Orange!
Good job.
Are you ready? Go wash your hands, honey.
What shape is this?
It smells lemony. I smell lemons.
Can we all go in a circle here? Quiet feet. So quiet feet. Tiptoes. Over the circle. Tiptoes.
I'm walking my toes. Here goes round and round where it stops. Nobody knows. Layla.
Currently, all preschool programs in Peoria School District are voluntarily enrolled in Quality First. We currently have 1 3-star center, 8 4-star centers, and 8 5-star centers. There are 10 in the region, and we hold 8 of those 5-star programs.
Parents are very happy. We have several staff members and instructors that are bringing their children here. And they've seen the growth, they've seen how their child is thriving, and they're seeing the collaboration with the teachers that are working together with their children.
We've had lots of positive feedback. We've had families say their children love to come to school each day, but their previous place they didn't necessarily like it as much. What I want to make sure everybody knows is that preschool really does hit on the whole child, so everything from their motor development to their cognitive development and their emotional development. So it's an all-encompassing type program to help everybody learn.
If parents are interested in registering for preschool or toddler programs, they can reach out to the preschool registration office at Skyview Elementary School. The number is 623-773-6675. We do still have some availability.
The 2020 census is coming. Make sure everyone gets counted. Do you hate waiting in lines? Have nothing to do? Get impatient? Hate waiting for the doctor? Run out of cat memes to look at? Add some excitement to your life. On April 1st, go to census.gov while you wait. Do it while drinking coffee, while enjoying dessert. Tell a friend, maybe not at work. In bed, anywhere you feel like. On April 1st, join us. Log on to census.org and be counted. The 2020 census is coming. Make sure everyone gets counted.
So I can count everyone in my house?
Everyone who lives in your house counts for $3,000 in city services.
What about Meowly Cyrus?
Unfortunately not.
Does my baby count as a person?
Yes, your baby does.
Fergalicious is like our baby.
Aww, but no.
How about my crazy Uncle Herbert visiting from Germany? That's getting old.
Sorry.
My grandfather lives with us. Should we count him?
Yes, you do.
A bun in the oven?
Maybe in 9 months.
My best friend?
No.
He's here every day.
Yeah, but no.
What about this baby?
If he lives with you.
Dasher?
This got weird. Let's recap. All living, breathing humans residing full-time in your home count. So make sure you count them.
In the summer of 2018, Peoria Unified School District received some communication from Glendale Community College saying that their Child Development Center was empty and wanting to know if we would be interested in partnering with them to run the Child Development Center.
This partnership has been pretty awesome for the preschool because we've gotten the chance to work with a lot of the new workforce that's coming up through the college. So all the interns that have been coming in and all the people that attend GCC now all know that Peoria does have preschool program and we have a toddler program now.
Our success rate has been serving students and serving the community. We have a wonderful preschool here on campus that we have approximately 12 children that are attending the preschool. Our toddler side, we have 2 toddlers, so we do have open enrollment at this time. The teachers on campus here that are in the classroom are actual GCC graduates. So I like to say that they actually have been my students. They have graduated from the program of early childhood education, and now that they are actually working for Peoria Unified School District.
One of the great advantages of this partnership with Glendale Community College are the interns that are coming into the program. We have students who are in the early childhood program at Glendale Community College who come into the toddler and preschool rooms.
So my students that are going into early childhood education sees the lab here on campus as an added benefit to prepare them to become workforce ready and to see best practices when it comes to early childhood education.
And what color is this?
Orange.
Good job.
Are you ready? Go wash your hands, honey. Is it your favorite snack?
What shape is this?
It smells lemony. I smell lemons.
Can we all go to circle pit? Quiet feet. So quiet feet. Tiptoes. Over to the circle pit. Tiptoes.
I'm walking like a merry goes round and round where it stops over the nose. Layla.
Currently, all preschool programs in Peoria School District are voluntarily enrolled in Quality First. We currently have 1 3-star center, 8 4-star centers, and 8 5-star centers. There are 10 in the region, and we hold 8 of those 5-star programs.
Parents are very happy. We have several staff members and instructors that are bringing their children here. And they've seen the growth, they've seen how their child is thriving, and they're seeing the collaboration with the teachers that are working together with their children.
We've had lots of positive feedback. We've had families say their children love to come to school each day, but their previous place they didn't necessarily like it as much. What I want to make sure everybody knows is that preschool really does hit on the whole child, so everything from their motor development to their cognitive development and their emotional development. So it's an all-encompassing type program to help everybody learn.
If parents are interested in registering for preschool or toddler programs, they can reach out to the preschool registration office at Skyview Elementary School. The number is 623-773-6675. We do still have some availability.
The 2020 census is coming. Make sure everyone gets counted. Do you hate waiting in lines? Have nothing to do? Get impatient? Hate waiting for the doctor? Run out of cat memes to look at? Add some excitement to your life. On April 1st, go to census.gov while you wait. Do it while drinking coffee, while enjoying dessert. Tell a friend, maybe not at work. In bed, anywhere you feel like. On April 1st, join us. Log on to census.org and be counted.
possibly can get everybody logged in. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and come out of executive session and call the meeting to order. President Sandoval is sick tonight, so I'll be your fearless leader. So bear with me. We want to go ahead and do our opening exercises. So we'll start with a moment of silence, and then we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. Any volunteers to lead the Pledge of Allegiance tonight? Right on. Okay, there we go. What's your name? They both can. Yeah, you both can. Come on up. All right, great. Thank you. Nothing like being on the spot. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm
Kevin Pleasant.
I'm Daniel Apodaca.
Great. Well, so we'll go ahead and move on to our agenda. Board, do we have any changes that we want to consider for the agenda this evening? No? Ms. Sedone? Okay, great. All right, we'll go ahead and continue on with item 6.1, or 6.1, staff recognitions. Superintendent, Ms. Powles-Thompson, do you have anything? No, I'm good. Okay. Ms. Airy, did you have anything for staff? Okay, great. How about item 6.2, board recognitions? Does anybody have anything they wanted to share?
I do have one. So I had the privilege this morning to be invited to our CTE interviews at Centennial High School. I absolutely love, and when I say love talking to them, I get to ask them questions about what their strengths are, and it is amazing how well you all do and come forward. And the one question I always ask is, tell me what you would like to see in a manager or a leader. And their response was, and I take this to heart because as leaders of the district and even in my own home, they would like somebody who was empathetic, setting clear expectations, and I quote, a game plan, holding others accountable as well as themselves, and to be able to create an environment where they want to belong. And I thought, genius. Let's put that out in the open so that we all remember by our great advice that our students have. So thank you for having the privilege to be a part of your story. And if any volunteers in the community, different lenses would like to volunteer in the future, please reach out to our CTE, Dr. Beltram, or even Centennial High School counselors that have the opportunity to interview our students. So thank you.
Great. Ms. Doan?
Well, I just want to say thanks to all that led us on the tour of the new SMART building, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. So I'm not going to take up everybody's time by listing everybody, but just know you are all appreciated. I've really enjoyed the tour, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Pingarelli? Okay, great. And I would echo Ms. Doan's sentiments. It was really great to see the building and see it in action with the students. So thank you for that. Anybody, anything else? All right, we will go ahead and move on to public comment. I do have, these are public comment. I do have 2 requests this evening for public comment. I'll go ahead and call the first individual, Ms. Ginger McLam, to the podium. And just as a reminder, we do have 3 minutes. Where's the time?
my time already started.
I know.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Pals Thomas, district representatives, and fellow attendees. Someone come down. I'm Ginger McLam, and I'm the president of the PHS Theater Booster Club, joined by a lot of amazing Panthers here tonight for me. A group of us parents came together after attending the fall show Little Mermaid in 2018, found that there was a great need for our PAC, so we formed a booster club based on our own finances and established it. And in March of 2019, we became an actual 501c3 official. We met with our principal, Mr. Bauer, and began the process of proposing a seating proposal, and quickly were forwarded to district office to the powers that be, Mr. Robert Panzer and Mr. Sean Duguid. Both gentlemen were extremely compassionate about our plight and our concerns, and we all were agreed that the safety of the students was of the utmost importance. Fast forward to January 8th, the Facebook post regarding the Smart Center at Sunrise Mountain. According to the post, the project finished 7 months early, within budget, and serves approximately 200 students. Our current project has been delayed 3 months, which was, we were given an olive branch of our lobby restrooms and some of our dressing rooms being addressed because we could do that because our ask was so large, which we totally understood. But our project has been delayed, and because there wasn't the need for the financing, and it's going to serve the entire campus, which is going to far exceed the 200 students that the Smart Building would. We are elated for the students of Sunrise, but found ourselves a little outraged for our students. There are funds to renovate and improve facilities, clearly, but in this moment, it just appeared not for ours. The enrollment of our campus, according to the U.S. News World and Report, is a minority enrollment of 70%. We are a Title I school. We probably receive Title IV funding. We have 60% of our students that are economically disadvantaged. We cannot compare our PAC on our campus to any other PAC in the district. There's no comparison. We have row after row of seats that do not go down anymore. They stay up, which poses a safety issue for an evacuation or an emergency. We are committed to raising the funds in the seating project that we started, but today we find ourselves unsure why this should even be necessary. Other campuses are receiving improvements and renovations with district funds. Why not our campus, where it all began? I extended a personal invitation to each board member to come and warm a seat that's squeaky and to see the condition of the PAC, but none of you were able to attend, which I completely understand. But I wanted to offer you the experience. We are committed to working to raise the funds, but on our campus, we are unsure why it hasn't happened for us and why we have to ask for it in this way. Pride, tradition, and legacy is what Peoria stands on, and it's what we want to protect and preserve, and that's why we are here today. So we leave you with a question. Just one question. Why does it appear that there is such inequity for this one campus where it all began, the home of a nationally recognized historical building, but yet our Performing Arts Center is really, honestly, the redheaded stepchild of the district? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, and our next speaker is Mr. Rick Guttridge. Oh, okay. Great. Okay, we will go ahead and move on. That was all the slips, right? Okay. We will go ahead and move on to item 8.0, the consent agenda. Board members, do you have any changes that you wanted or anything you want to pull? Ms. Pingarelli?
I wanted to pull 8.19.
Okay. Is that everything? 8.9?
8.19, I'm sorry.
Oh, 8.19.
I'm looking at
the last one on the back.
It's request for external research, the second one.
Okay. Ms. Stone, did you have anything? No. Okay. Ms. Sahar Martinez?
8:17.
Okay.
American Legion equipment donation.
All right. Any other items? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda without 8.119 and 8.17?
I move to approve the consent agenda minus 8.17 and 8.19.
I'll second.
I am not able to log in, So I don't know if you want to do a voice vote or.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, do I?
You could just say all in favor.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, consent agenda passes with the exception of 8.19 and 8.17. So we're going to move on to 8.17, I believe. Is that how we want to?
I seconded that.
And then it becomes 9.1, I think, as she works through that. I'm just getting mine up too, so.
Sorry, we had computer switches, so we're a little confused.
And log-ons.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Can we go ahead with item 9.1? American Legion equipment donation.
She put request for external. You see it?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, so we'll go ahead with that one then. Request for external research. Ms. Pingarelli?
Well, I've actually been pulling these off and on through the last couple of superintendents. It was under Dr. Santarelli. He always would have the external research as one of the agenda items, just to have the community to be familiar with what type of research that is being done on their campuses. So I would like to see that in the future. And on this one, this is the purpose of this study is to test the relationship of socioeconomic status, gender, and ethnicity of students to student achievement as measured by iReady across 3rd grade through 6th grade. This one's going to encompass 450 students, 3rd through 6th grade. I just want to make sure that the data is secure. And I've been asking that for a while. I know, Mr. Gay, I don't know if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Ms. Pingarelli. I don't have specific knowledge of that, but Mr. Moss is here and he'll be able to respond to you.
See Mr. Moss. Just because I like to have your explanation, and it's just, I think it's important that parents understand, even if it's a couple-minute overview of what the research is.
Okay. We certainly take steps to secure data. The individuals work with their IRB boards and are trained on how to keep things data, how to keep data safe, all those types of things that are taking place. And so we can certainly start adding those processes. We do get information back from them, questions, distribution, how I give them the information, all those kind of things. We don't send it through the mail and anything like that. We take steps to make sure it's secure. And then we do get the return of what is there, what their results are. We get those things back. And if there's something that's earth-shattering, we bring it and say, hey, we really found something new or whatever along the way. So certainly we can change the policy to have things brought, everything there. We were trying to make a distinction in some of the research from those things that were impacting the classroom, were attitudinal, or were surveys of students.
Right.
We would certainly bring forward to make sure you are all aware of. If something is more archival data dealing with adults that are not necessarily going to impact any conversations with kids, anything like that, that's why I put these on here. So I will take the heat for that it wasn't done properly, but that was kind of my thought process, that it's not necessarily, again, I don't want to put it out there if it's not important, but it's not nearly as disruptive to the student or to the parent or to this day.
Okay, yeah, that's why I didn't pull 8.18, because that was just, it was a teacher survey.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we certainly do take steps, have a conversation with all of the people who work with us to say, how do we make sure that this is safe, results, those types of things.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions on that one?
I do, Mr. Moss.
Sorry.
That's all right. Just to for my understanding in the research, do we notify the parents that they're students, or is the testing not disruptive that we don't communicate anything?
This is all archival data, so this is all
Okay.
information. And in most cases, we would not even, we would just give the, like in this case in particular, they would just take the ID and the demographic data without a name attached to it and use that information without having any identifiable name of student.
Okay.
So we wouldn't notify them or believe we should. I mean, I can if you want me to, but that's, we just.
Well, I just think as a parent, I want to be made sure of the information that is relevant to my child. I know I sign a photo release. Like, I know my children, if at any point they're in some kind of picture with the district, it could be used for the district purposes. And I'm thinking about that same kind of concept. This is their personal data, not tied to their name, but if we're sharing their school ID and looking at security, just something I would like us to think through, what is best practice as we go through this. And I would support Ms. Pangarelli's comments that some of these studies that the board approves ultimately would probably be relevant to some of the data decisions that we have to make going forward, that we can use to support those difficult decisions. Thank you.
Well aware.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Doan, did you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're going to move on.
I need to prove.
Yep.
We have to approve that one? Okay. All right, so we need a motion to approve item 9.1 from the consent agenda, request for external research, the association of iReady within a school setting with children of various socioeconomic backgrounds with Robert Scott of Concordia University, Portland.
I move to approve 9.1 as presented.
I second.
Okay, the motion passes. And now we're going to move on to the next one. 9.2, American Legion equipment donation.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up just to highlight. American Legion has, at least for my board year that I started in 2017, has been very gracious. Not only tonight you'll see a financial donation, but their time and impact that they have to our students. They reached out to me, and I, in result, introduced them to Mr. Panzer. And this donation is working with our CFO for something that's continuous supporting the arts. So the American Legion comes in and teaches our students about patriotism and the importance of the flag, but they've also supported resources and supporting how important the arts are to our students with instruments and materials to some of our Title I schools. So I wanted to say a great thank you to our American Legion Post 62, our friends there. We've had an opportunity to visit, our superintendent and I, but I wanted to make sure that they are part of the love of our district, so thank you. So,
Ms. Pingarelli, did you have anything? Okay. Mrs. Doan? All right. Then.
I move to approve American Legion equipment donation.
Second? Okay, and the motion passes 4-0. Do we have any of the Peoria folks that were here before still in the audience? One thing I always feel like we need to explain to the students, and I failed to do so, is that we are not allowed to respond to public comment, and I just want to make sure they don't think like we aren't, So if you could just pass that on. So thank you very much. All right, moving right along. So we are on item 10.1, consideration to approve the contract as presented for Dr. Jason Reynolds for the position of superintendent for the 2020-2021 school year.
Mr. Sandoval is going to be.
Okay, great.
Coming in.
In the building?
No.
Oh, that's right. Okay, maybe bring him back.
What is he? Trouble getting him? Okay, we're good?
All right.
You're all set.
Do we just move? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the contract as
I will
presented?
move that we approve the contract for Dr. Reynolds as presented.
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay.
Any discussion?
We need to, discussion, President Sandoval, we are taking the vote on Dr. Reynolds' contract now. Are you able to hear us? Okay, say that one more time.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Technology.
There's a lot of feedback.
We should have FaceTime so I could. Right?
Some districts do that.
Is that right?
Video conference.
Oh.
President Sandoval, are you able to hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. This is a lot of feedback noise. I don't know if you know me.
So we can take a voice vote?
Okay. All in favor of approving the contract as presented for Dr. Jason Reynolds for the position of superintendent of the 2021 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, the motion passes 5-0.
Yes.
Every time I come up here, there's a little drama. So it's like, sheesh.
We love the arts.
Ms. Underhill, the governing board, Ms. Palace Thompson, cabinet, guests. I wanted to say thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to join this family. As deputy and now as superintendent, it's a really exciting opportunity, and having the opportunity to get to know you as a leadership group, getting to know cabinet, as well as the leadership around the district, teachers and students, parents. As I mentioned earlier, it is a special place, and I am incredibly excited and honored to have this opportunity. If you give me just 1 second, I would love to say thank you to a group of people who came here tonight. Reintroduce my mom and dad, Doug and Ethel Reynolds. They are the inspiration in my life and all that I do. My son, Declan, my daughter, Bailey, they're the reason I get up every single morning. They're the reason why when I travel around the district, I have such a passion for public education. When I see teachers and I see the students in every single one of our classes, I see their faces, and I want to make sure that what we're doing is the very best for our kids. My brother Jared, some of you know, he used to work with you. Sorry. No, since he's walking around, he knows more people than I do. So it's thank you so much for being here. And I do want to mention Dr. Jim Lee and his wife Terry. Jim is my mentor. He has taught me how to be a leader. He has taught me how to be a husband, a father, and most importantly, a friend. And it means a great deal to me that he and Terry made some time to come out tonight. And of course, my beautiful wife, Mara, who was unable to be here at the deputy. She, as I mentioned, she's a flight attendant, and so she's gone quite a bit. She changed her schedule so she could be here with us tonight. And so I really appreciate that. She is our rock. She is the joy in my life, and I couldn't do any of this without her. So I am so excited. I cannot wait to continue to work with this board, a board who honors academic achievement, honors student success, but also understands that we can't get there without meeting the needs of our students, social emotional needs, all the things that they come to us with. And so as a community, we embrace that mission, we embrace the vision, and we make sure that we're meeting every child's needs every single day. So thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Sandoval, for crawling out of bed to make this vote. I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments, Ms. Doan?
Well, Dr. Reynolds, you were talking about excitement, and I said to Linda, wait till he's sitting up here. Welcome aboard.
I wanted to make sure that we gave every part of this onboarding process a lot of excitement, and if any members were to miss any one of those stages, you got to feel that effect in the next board meeting. So I think we're good as on your onboarding, and now we can officially say your start date will be around the corner. So welcome, and I encourage you to provide feedback, be candid, and share your love for what we've created here as well.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, and I think it went fairly smooth this evening. Enjoy working with you, starting in a new, a higher leadership on July 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sandoval, are you out there?
Can you hear me
think
okay?
so. Is he?
I just want to say, first off, thank you to Dr. Reynolds' family and his mentors, friends, for supporting him as he set out on his journey, right? The journey to inspire others and enrich the lives of many. Dr. Reynolds, I'm excited about your leadership, your compassion, your empathy, and there's no doubt that you are the right person to further the foundation that Miss Paula Thompson has influenced. So congratulations, and looking forward to working with you as we further impact lasting change in our students, teachers, and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And then last but not least is me. So no, you get to go too, don't you? You get to say something. You want to say something? You go ahead.
I would thank you, Mrs. Underhill. This is very bittersweet, okay? Now, remember, I just want you to know that you are not starting till July 1st. So just keep that in mind. To my board, I just want to say you've made an amazing choice. This is a super individual. I enjoy working with him every single day. My biggest regret is that I'm not going to be here long enough to still really enjoy him as well as I enjoy you. But this is one of the major 3 things that you do: policy, budget, and picking the right superintendent. And I'm going to say you did it right twice, but I know you did it right this time. And so I'm delighted, and I want to thank all of you who have had input, and definitely Superintendent, thank you so much for what you've done to just guide me in the right direction. I appreciate that. So take it away, kid. Okay.
Mrs. Palace Thompson, as I've said publicly many times and privately many more, working with you, my career, my life would not have been complete without an opportunity to work with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to say to your family, welcome to Peoria, because we know that you guys are, it's so integral to have your support for Dr. Reynolds, and we're just super excited that you're all here. And I know that you go to school somewhere else, but you are part of this family. So just know that, and know how much we appreciate your time and your sacrifice and all of that. So thank you very much, and you should be super proud because and you're part of it. So thank you all, and welcome, Dr. Reynolds.
And you have the email of all his bosses. So if you want to put in a statement, feel free to email us.
Not Jared. And so before we move on, now is the time you can go to have dinner. So thank you.
Yeah, go have ice cream. We're supposed to say that, right?
Yeah.
Go have ice cream and do all that fun stuff. So there you go. That's even better. On Jason, right? Now,
Yes.
Dr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Hey, thank you, guys.
You.
All right. So moving right along to item number 10.2, our board goals for calendar year 2021. Did we want to have discussion? Okay. So the board has been working for a while to develop some board goals. And Dr. Reynolds has worked with us to put together this document that's in front of us this evening. So we just wanted to kind of share that with the community, and also provide an opportunity for a board to have any additional feedback on the goals that are presented tonight.
And is this, Ms. Underhill? Is this an action item?
This is an action item, so we are looking for approval of the goals.
Perfect. Okay.
So do I have a motion?
I could start with discussion first.
Okay, let's start
if you
with
don't
discussion
mind.
first.
Ms. Underhill? Perfect. So yes, just to reiterate, this is a collaborative effort between the administration, superintendent, and the governing board on first time ever board having goals. We've talked a lot about accountability. It's been a work in progress. Looking at this information, there are a couple of things I would like the board to consider that how do you know if you're successful? And your input would be, where would we want to put it, is missing measurable outcomes. Nowhere in here do our board goals highlight that we would draft measurable outcomes. This is the first time we're doing that, so we're gonna learn and grow through this process, but I would like even one more goal to be added as we go through the rest of this year to define what measurable outcomes look like. I don't believe that can be assessed in one board meeting or even probably 2 study sessions, but it is something I would like this board to draft and finalize is measurable outcomes, and that be a foundation as we move forward in the next years. So it would read something like goal. It could be goal area would be strategic plan, define measurable outcomes aligned to board goals. As simple as that. I think Mr. Sandoval hung up. Mic drop.
So just to clarify, you're saying that we would add an actual goal to be in the process of developing measurable goals?
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Any additional comments about that? And then
Mrs. Doan, did you have any?
Well, it sounds reasonable to me, but does that mean we're going to table this item rather than vote on it?
Well, we can, Ms. Underhill?
I would have to ask Ms. Kim if we can we amend this and then vote on it in the same meeting?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Pingarelli, did you have any questions?
I do. I know we had discussed this when we had met on a Saturday a few weeks ago. I know I did put out, I'm concerned about the under budget, provide competitive compensation for all employee groups. I asked the question on that date, what are we going to be taking away in order to provide? Because right now, other districts are paying more. So if our goal, and we're having the budget committee look at increasing compensation, I want to know what are we giving up in return. With that in there, like that, and not knowing if we're going to go ahead and have an MOU out there as a vote, and if it would pass or not pass. I can't vote for these goals within there as that, because I need to know what we're giving up in order to do that.
I'm going to have to agree with that. Where it says provide competitive compensation for all, that's basically a statement that next contracts will be hugely increased, if you will, and we don't know if we can do that.
Well, I know we've talked in the past about, with the 20, the governor's plan, 20% by 2020. We've given 15% in the last 2 years to certified. I think the groups that have been really left behind has been classified.
Yes.
And for the new incoming teachers and the ones that have just started in the last couple of years that have not been able to take advantage of that. Those are the 2 groups that I'm concerned with the most.
That goal needs to be rewarded substantially or something.
Ms. Underhill? I would like to add to that comment. I agree the fact that we use the words equal or greater than, there's no incremental change, so it's going from one gap to another, and that's not realistic. And one thing of measuring goals or creating goals is it has to be realistic with the current outcome of unpassed overrides and potentially losing a large amount. We would be setting ourselves up as a district for failure. So rewording, I want to still capture the board's voice in prioritizing compensation for all employee groups, but it has to be within the means of which we have the ability to do on a more conservative approach.
I know one comment also that was made within that sort of this discussion was around the idea of compensation versus wages. And so just, taking into consideration our benefits package and all those pieces as well. So I don't know how that, refines the goal itself, but I know that compensation as opposed to salary and wage, I think is important. And we are starting to see where we are kind of edging up with our competitors in those areas. So just wanted to put that in there.
Ms. Linda Pellis-Thompson, do you or Dr. Reynolds have any recommendations on how we could modify that word verbiage that sets a realistic expectation, but still captures the will of the board of we need to continue to prioritize compensation as we are already looking at Valley Schools, as well as compensation at the same time looking at the other buckets of money that we may have to reduce as a result of valuing our employees via compensation?
Mrs. Sayas Martinez, I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this, and your comments are both correct, as far as setting measurable goals, that's critical. And I think that's the next step, and I would put that on John to help us do that. That's his deal. But attracting and retaining is really what we're looking at doing, right? I mean, the goal is not to necessarily pay the people more, but to be competitive. I think that's how we're going to attract and retain our people. So that can be your goal, And then to your point, Mrs. Pancarelli, is how do we set? What's the process that we're going to use to set the priorities to say, all right, this is what we're going to have to give up. It's not the what we have to give up. It's how we go about the process of making that decision. So it's not done in a helter-skelter fashion. It's done in a systematic way of, all right, this is, if we're doing this, this is going to have to go. Are we comfortable with that? So rather than just doing it and making it up. So I think the way to go about it is to change it to that the goal is to attract and retain, and then to come up with clear processes for making decisions that will impact the budget plan, because that's really what you're trying to do. And then how do you know that you're successful on any of these? Because I'm looking at it, building a positive and sustainable relationship, for example, with the superintendent. It's how long you're going to keep that superintendent would be, a measure. If you've got a good relationship, you'll be keeping him. The communication, expectations, the goals that you do. What is the perception of our community with respect to your relationship? Do they see it as functional? So you can do a survey piece. Those are real good indicators for that. But as far as the other pieces, I think you can come up with exactly specific pieces, and I would agree, Ms. Pancarelli, you don't want to give up things unless you as the board have to make, how are we going to do it? We're looking at things that are not going to affect our kids as much as we can. This is not going to affect our whatever, but it's okay to maybe affect the building, What are our priorities that you're setting? That are non-negotiable and are negotiable, nice to haves and need to haves. So it's setting up the priority of what has to go, of what has to change. So I don't know. What else do you have?
Did you have other suggestions? One thing I heard Ms. Sayas Martinez say was prioritize, and you said it as well. And I mean, maybe it's rather than provide, it's prioritizing compensation and budgeting decisions, because that speaks to all employee groups. It speaks to that we're trying to attract and retain, but we're prioritizing compensation as a means of an end to our goals, Does that make sense? Any comments?
How can Ms.
So it would
Underhill?
be prioritize compensation in budgeting decisions.
With that.
There's Ms. Underhill? So are we comfortable with the budgeting, with that statement instead, and removing?
So it would just be, so it would just, instead of provide, it would be prioritize and take out competitive and just put compensation?
We're already prioritizing in the next point.
It can be repetitive. But true, I see how you have competing priorities. You're right.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I mean, when you're talking about a budget, you're going to have multiple priorities. I mean, because, you know, it's a multi-pronged thing.
The question is, are they competing priorities? And I'm getting a nod from our CFO. So we, as a board, would have to determine what is our number one priority, people or things?
Well, but the things support the people, so it's people too.
We need to, and again, this is a rough process just because it's brand new, but I also think it gives clear focus. Give us something broad enough where we can work through. I like the recommendation that you both have made about the prioritizing of the compensation and budget process. And I think that coexists with the second bullet point.
I would agree. I just think they go together because it also includes professional development. And I think those three pieces are critical to instruction. Ms. Pinkerley?
Yeah, Ms. Myers, you've been shaking your head a little bit. Do you have any comments that you would like to throw out there from a budget process?
Mrs. Underhill, Mrs. Pingerelli, members of the board. Your questions are excellent, and when you have a prioritization statement for two focus areas, oftentimes it is helpful to delineate when there are scarce resources, which priority area rises to the top. So perhaps more of a general philosophical priority, going back to Mrs. Pallas-Thompson's recommendation on recruit and retain, those types of goals allow us to then say perhaps in 1 year there might be more funding for capital, as an example. And as you have a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, you prioritize for resource purchases, but compensation is an annual priority, as an example.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Ms. Underhill? So just so I understand, because it also lends itself to the next agenda item, essentially, the board has to share to the committees what's our priority. So from what I hear is using the verbiage of attract and retain, that will give you and your committees enough direction from the board's perspective and for you to lead what are the priorities to delineate resources. Is that what I'm understanding? Does that make sense?
Mrs. Underhill, Mrs. Ceja Martinez, yes, an annual priority will always be to attract, recruit, and retain the best and the brightest. Our challenge is that we have scarce and limited resources, and so understanding the priority and the philosophical direction allows a budget team or administration to better allocate our budget to program outcomes. That would include hiring qualified staff to ensure that we have the resources that we need in place to allow us to provide our students with the best education possible.
Ms. Pingerelli.
Ms. Pingerelli?
I mean, for me, the priority is classified and first, second-year teachers that haven't been able to seen the benefits of the 2020 Ducey's bill, so.
I think, I'm wondering if there's a way to, like, move toward that goal without being, you know, so we're talking more about our structure, our systems for compensation, as opposed to, like, specific individuals. And I mean, I understand those specific levels have been highly impacted, but I'm just wondering if it's, you know, something around attract and recruit. Attract and retain individuals, or if it's even that, or if it's developing a structure, or continuing to develop our structure to be able to attract and retain highest quality staff. I don't know.
Ms. Underhill? I would say that giving the leeway of that general statement, but then when we do measurable outcomes, then we would determine that if we, the how of executing the goal would be inclusive of Ms. Pingarelli's statement of, then we are going to focus on first, second, third-year teachers and teachers were missed. That would be a measurable outcome that we could say that the board creates in time when we have more roundtable conversation. Does that make sense? So we have a broad enough statement that we're leaning towards that direction. We want to focus on employees specifically. When we get to those measurable outcomes, we can use that as the specific goals. Okay. And then I wanted to add, and then Ms. Elizabeth Thompson, you brought it up for the superintendent, and I believe you caught the word, instead of build, establish, and maintain. So we have to determine between the relationship between the superintendent and the governing board, let's establish what we want as behaviors. So establish and maintain a positive and sustainable relationship with the superintendent based on clear mutual expectations, and then I'm okay with quality communication and conducting affairs with integrity and the highest ethical standards to nurture trust.
Just came up with that?
No,
Okay.
I should have sent it over, so I apologize. I had it more than 24 hours, so I'm sorry.
That's great.
But if I remember some of the things we worked through, that was what we were trying to capture.
Did you have any comments on those additions?
I guess, can we make this kind of a first read type thing? Is it, I don't know what the agenda is like in the future, if we need to have, I mean, we'd like to have Mr. Sandoval, his input. I mean, can you?
I'd like to have a word about this.
I think so, well, yeah.
I think you have a very good working document to start with. I mean, this is what we're talking about.
Mhm.
You keep on referring back to it, set some goals, some, checkpoints along the way of what you're looking for. And, hey, how are we doing on this review of policies? That's an easy one, okay? The review of policies, are we really doing that? How far along are we? We'll never get done at this pace. So, I mean, you're able to do that and look at it in a timely fashion. I think they're a really good start, and you can adopt the goals themselves and then say, but we want to, make sure we're going to put metrics in and timelines.
What I'm saying, do we vote on this tonight or do we make the changes and come back with those changes?
Whichever you want.
I'd rather see the changes.
I would too.
Yeah.
So are we motioning to table, or, okay?
Yes, we need to table it.
I would agree. This is a work in progress. We already have your goals established, so we know as a district where we're headed. And now, as our board president and board clerk work through the agenda planning, we're still on the same page, so we don't want to confuse the community just because the board doesn't have goals. We do, they're aligned. We're working through that, so we have clear, concise, measurable outcomes as we move forward and set the precedent for the future.
Right.
So.
And I feel like these goals, as stated and with the amendments that we're talking about, do lead into the next agenda item well, so I feel like we're aligned.
Yep,
Are you guys okay? Okay. Yeah. All right, do I have a motion to table?
Okay,
go ahead.
I move to table 10.2, board goals
I
for
will
calendar
second.
year 2020.
Sorry, I will second.
Did I close it? I accidentally closed it.
There's never just one little change.
I closed the screen.
Uh-oh.
I know, I'm sorry.
Sitting around, haven't you?
I was reading my notes in OneNote. There we go.
No.
Okay. Oh, I press send or yay.
The motion passes to table this item for right now. All right, moving right along to 10.3, the Citizens Advisory Committee discussion and future bond and override elections. We do have a public comment request. So Mr. Guttridge, if you'd like to take the floor.
I don't have this item up on my.
Mrs. Underhill, members of the governing board, Superintendent Powell Thompson. You all know I've been a past member of the bond committees, bond and override committees, and I just wanted to make a couple suggestions to you as you start to have this conversation about how things should proceed. I'd start out by saying you better plan on this being a tough year to pass a bond or an override. That's kind of my political sense. I really think you're going to have a hard time doing it, okay? And you also have a very, very short time frame to make all these decisions in. So my first recommendation is that you bring back as many of the committee members that you had last year and the year before as you possibly can, because they're going to be up to speed on the issues already. And you won't have to take a lot of time bringing other new members up to speed, okay? So that will speed up the process a little bit. The second thing I would like to recommend is let the committee pick its chairman and let the committee chairman ask administration what they want, rather than have administration feed what it wants to the committee all the time. I think that if you bring back seasoned committee members, they're going to have specific questions, and they'll be much better prepared to direct administration to provide the information they need to make a decision. So I'd suggest you let the committee pick its own chairman and let the committee chairman run the meetings. Okay? The third thing I would suggest, I know in 2018 when I was on the committee, I wasn't able to serve last year, I was out of town. We had several members of the committee who were district employees, and I would make two comments to that point. First of all, that to me, and I suspect to a lot of members in the community, if they knew about it, would consider that a gross conflict of interest. You have employees of the district recommending tax increases for whatever purpose. That said, I think their participation is important, and they should still be on the committee. I would like to suggest that they provide their input and everything, but they don't get to vote on the recommendations that the committee brings to the governing board. And that was the three suggestions I had. It's going to be a tough year, guys. It's going to be really tough to get this passed, so keep that in mind.
Thank you. All right. Other discussion? Ms. Doan?
I did have one email asking us to not even do this, but I think that we need to do it because the climate does change from year to year. It's not stagnant. Our needs change. So I was unaware that the committee did not pick their own chairman. I think that's kind of silly. And they should be able to get any information they want. I don't see any reason why that should be any issue in a very timely fashion, because we are in a hurry. So, that's my comments on that. I don't think we want to put something out there that's going to fail. We want to put something out there that will work for everybody. And I want to proceed, but with a little caution.
Ms. Ceja Martinez?
Thank you for joining us this evening. The board has been talking about this, and we heard some of the prioritization. I think of a couple of things. Time is of the essence, definitely agree, and utilizing our past committee members would help shorten that time span and that learning curve up to speed. So one, I would consider, and here would like to hear what the board said, is go back to the last year of first take a poll who can participate, because as we know, not everybody can, and then to the previous year, taking a look at those numbers, and I said this again, learning from what gaps or lenses are we missing from those interest forms. If there are some gaps that we can fill in, then I would go ahead and proceed. But with time of the essence, that is priority. And then two, content. We have the utilization, building utilization coming up report in February, so that's going to be new data for everybody. But having some kind of finance or safety, security skill set would be something to consider. I like the idea of a committee chair. If we look at how other bodies of work in the government, they do tend, I see where they pick a committee chair and they work through those Q&A. I've heard that in past committees as well as a committee chair. Just out of curiosity, for our district committees that you guys compose, do you have a practicing committee chair that is not an administrator?
Mrs. Sayas-Martinez, it depends on the committee, but I know for this, it didn't serve as a chair. There was a person running and make sure that all the information was there and whatever. I don't know that there were committee chairs, not that it can't be. If it's what you want, that's what we can do.
Okay. I did look at the board committee, so thank you again for providing all the policies available for the board as well as the community. I was trying to read through to see if there was any policy that negates that option. I don't see anything that says that we cannot do it. It does say we have a temporary committee appointed, so that is something if the board wants to consider a committee chair or even co-chair, and I think about of all the work that it takes into place into communicating out, but I also think about open meeting law. This is a committee of the board, and we have to follow the laws. If we do pick a committee chair, how is that going to work with open meeting law? So that would be new territory. Honestly, I have no idea.
Territory.
I like the idea, but I want to make sure we follow open meeting law and that information. The last thing I have, and when we discuss this, it goes back to what we already talked about. One of the policies does require that the superintendent and the board president choose the statement as supported by the board of what our priorities are, that it needs to be very clear if we are going to be conservative on how we present a bond or an override. We need to be clear from the board perspective of what we are prioritizing. And if we do proceed with the bond, is it a situation where we have our older schools, such as PFA was brought up tonight, their arts facility, or are we staying away from arts facility and going only where science and STEM classes to help support academic achievement? Where does our focus need to be? And it needs to be very clear if we're gonna be very conservative on what goes out to the community. So those are my only three asks of the board is, one, consider and be very clear on what we're asking the committee to prioritize, and everything else is off the table. Two, the skill sets that we go back from the last committee and the previous committee, and then fill in the gaps with the open list, and then considering a committee chair.
Ms. Tingarelli?
Well, from my perspective, I know I had brought it up before about you know, I did pick one teacher, and I noticed that there were 5 committee members that were employees of the district, 6 that were not, so it was almost 50%. So that's my only ask, is to be conscious of, not that employees can't be on. I like Mr. Guttridge's suggestion of maybe not being a voting member. But we definitely need input from employees. The other thing is just to be aware that it's critical to pass a bond and or override. And that's what I think needs to be at the forefront of importance.
I would agree. I mean, I think with the parameters that you guys have both set up, I feel like going back to the same committee, and because we've had so much time and information presented, I think makes a lot of sense, especially because it would be expedient for us to do so. I'm not opposed to having either additional community members or somehow kind of like not making there be quite so much employee influence, I guess, just because of the perception of what that might be. But I agree that we do need to have some, in some way, input, because obviously those are the folks on the ground that know what's happening every day. The one thing that I would add that is the most important thing for me as far as getting this process going is that we establish a more expedient timeline. In the past, we've had a recommendation come to the board in May, and I would like to see us, because we've already been through a lot of information, I know we have the facility usage piece coming up, but I would really like for us to have a recommendation in April as opposed to May. So that's sort of my piece to add to the rest of the conversation. But other than that, I feel like, you know, our process has been good. I think, you know, the chair piece is fine if that seems to be important. You know, obviously we would just clarify what their job is, because it's a big commitment for anyone. So we want to make sure that, you know, they understand what their role would be. But yeah.
Ms. Underhill, just to add, when I try to look at both sides, when we say staff, I agree not overpopulating the group as a result of a perception, but I also am concerned, just to put it out there, that they still could be taxpayers within our boundaries. So we don't want to negate that. If they're on the committee, they still could live in our boundaries and still pay taxes, so they should still have the same equal voice in participating in that conversation. But other than that, I agree, perception does play a big role, no matter what lens, community member, parent, teacher. With that being said, is that enough direction in a short time?
Is that confusing enough for you?
Yeah.
Could be. Go ahead.
So working with Ms. Myers, I think everything is good, but if you were going to move that the chair be someone other than who we've typically had in the past, then I think we would need that vote from the board's perspective. I'm trying to decide or get a sense that that is the will of the board.
I'm wondering if it's, I mean, I don't know, and Mr. Guttridge brought up a point, but I'm wondering if it's less about a chair and more about the flow of information as opposed to what is presented. So is it that the committee should be requesting what they need as opposed to the district determining that? And maybe that has to do with the agenda planning and that kind of thing. So I don't know if it's necessarily having a designated chair as it is the parameters around the agenda.
And Ms. Underhill,
Get a treat today.
and if that's the understanding of the board, then those protocols can be established with the superintendent and the president of the board.
Okay. All right, that's great.
I like that.
I would like to share my sentiment.
Yes.
Ms. Underhill, well done.
Ms. Underhill, I know that we want to make it a little tighter and move it. The override itself will take, I think, less time to explain and go through and make decisions on. The bond itself, that piece we have a facility utilization study that'll be right there. The cost of things is inflated from the last time, so that will take, I believe, longer, significantly longer in the process to do it. Now, you can have 2 meetings a week, or they can be longer, but I don't know that we can take it much earlier than the end of April, beginning of May to get it going, because it'll be maybe too rushed. I know we want to do it. I believe we have time because some of the election stuff that's coming out, if you do decide to go in that direction, is in August for the primaries. So, we have time because nobody's going to want to deal with us, at that point anyway. But that's the one thing. And as far as community members, what I'm hearing is that we do need to have a variety of different sections of the community, regardless of whether they be teacher. But I think as I would agree, there's enough employees on here, and we need to look at half a dozen people. And I would like to invite people who have served before and couldn't do it. Absolutely. In fact, I talked to one of them before the meeting started. So yes, I'd like to do that.
Ms. Myers, our deadline would be the last board meeting in May, correct?
Mrs. Underhill, Mrs. Pingarelli, that is correct. There are certain deadlines that are set by Maricopa County elections, and without a vote giving direction on next steps, we would have a difficult time meeting the deadline with the county. So yes, the end of May is really our last opportunity to have a recommendation for a ballot question.
Okay. For me, I want to do it right and not quick. So, I mean, if it takes up to the nth hour, I'm fine with that.
We can have more study sessions.
Dawn, did you have anything else?
I do think we need to look at the employee groups putting in a significant input, because, let's face it, their paychecks depend on it. And they are taxpayers, though. I mean, so and we do need their input, but we need to see if there's, so they don't need to have an overwhelming influence on the vote. And maybe we could know, not names or anything, but, if there was a split or anything like that, it would be helpful to know if it was along employee lines and different community members.
We'll be able to do that. We know who we're thinking are people that are going to return, and I think that most of them will, if the commitment isn't totally crazy. But it gets involved when we're doing that, and it should get involved. You talked a little bit about prioritizing. Mrs. Ask Martinez, what are you saying with that?
So according to the policies presented to us and our district policies, it is is it the first one?
To be clear with our
Yes,
priorities.
exactly. Governing board president, Policy BDF, governing board president in conjunction with the superintendent shall develop guidelines for each committee. These guidelines should be approved by the board prior to the first meeting, be specific with the written purpose, dates, and then priorities. That the board wants, if we're going to be conservative or slim down that number, that's as candid as I could be. If that is something that's going to be discussed and voted on, the board should know what is the non-negotiable. And what I hear just solely on this conversation is people. So some of the items that we've talked about in the past could include school sites, could include programs that we offer or resources. And if we have to choose between $2 million in bucket A and $2 million in bucket C, the board's priority is bucket A. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but, yes, I think as we look, Mrs. Haspich, in the different, the override versus the bond, that's automatically 2 buckets, okay? And it might be that you decide to go with the one or with the other, which is not the people, one, or both.
Buckets, though,
or
they
both,
have.
in what you're dealing with in both.
Because if we
of
go
those.
with both, then in each bucket and we slim it down, that has a higher probability of passing. That is something that the community could consider. But what is the board saying in the bond option? What is our priority? Is it older schools? Is it safety? And that's it? And then for override, which is a different bucket, different voting item, are we saying people? Are we saying arts? CTE was on that list. Administrators? AP, is that considered people? What is the board saying is our 1, 2 non-negotiable?
Is this another agenda item that you'd like to go on to at some point? Or do you want something to look at halfway through the process? Or,
Yeah, I think part of those questions, the facility utilization study is going to lend itself to that. So I think if the board were to try to prioritize some kind of parameters around that right now, it would be premature, you know? I think within the goals, the loosely stated goals that we've put forth tonight, we do have prioritizing, attracting, and retaining teachers and, you know, providing resources and professional development, and that's our people kind of goal. So I feel like there is that broad sort of board, you know, parameter around what's important to us as a district. I mean, from, you know, based on, because our goals are based on our pillars of our strategic plan as well. Sorry, Ms. Myers?
Thank you, Mrs. Underhill. Members of the board. Policy BDF does state that the priorities of the board for the committee, as well as certain specific actions, including dates and expected final reports and things of that nature, do need to be approved at a governing board meeting. And so I do believe we would be coming back on February 13th if the board tonight were to give direction to reconvene a prior committee or add so many new members and give direction to Mrs. Pallas Thompson, we then would be bringing that back coupled with the priorities for a vote and direction, and it states that needs to occur before the committee meets for the first time.
So, so us voting tonight to reconvene is not, we're not, it has to come back to us anyway, is what you're saying, right? So we're getting it underway, and then in the following meeting, we would actually approve the description?
The guidelines would need to be voted on and approved prior to the first meeting.
Okay.
Stated in the policy.
And if we're intending to finalize our board goals at our next meeting, then we should be able to do both, correct? Okay.
Dr. Reynolds, I'm seeing a frown. What are you saying?
Well, I'm just wondering if, you know, given the parameters in BDF, you have established a timeline. We have the motion for the purpose of the committee. I'm wondering if we have met the requirements of BDF. The only concern we have is
Guidelines.
the members on there. That's not included in, that's clearly stated in the relationship between the board president and the superintendent. I think you have guidance there. I'm just wondering with that policy if the board believes we have met that requirement with the motion, with the timeline. That was my question.
I mean, the motion says, you know, our motion is to reconvene the Citizens Advisory Committee to include prior governing board appointed committee members with the provision the superintendent could appoint additional members to replace non-returning members or to increase perspective or expertise if needed. And I think we've definitely discussed that. So.
Ms. Underhill? So the question I have is, one, we don't want to delay. We've all highlighted we cannot delay this process. If we bring it back, it's going to delay the process. That's clear. So we trying to get it done tonight. With prioritizing of those resources where we want to spend that money, can that come to you more definitive as a result of the next board meeting? Because we've given you some guidelines to start, and you're right, Ms. Underhill, the policy, we met the conversation about the agenda item. So that was my question, if that was clear.
Yeah, and again, I just think it would be premature to try to whittle down some sort of non-compromisable items when we don't have the facility utilization study, et cetera, yet. So, any other discussion or concerns about moving on this tonight?
Can we also use the 2018 committee to supplement? Because the 2019 committee was quite a bit smaller. And the 2018 committee went through a lot of it that, you know, they should be well versed in what's going on. So if we use them as, you know, kind of back up and to plug some of those in that are interested now.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Doan, the 2019 committee can move ahead and would do some tutoring, you know, to get everybody else up to speed, you know, and if it requires, you know, a day session to talk to them about some of the other issues, we can get them up. On the bond, it's pretty new. A whole lot of the information will be, you know, new. You know, especially the costs will be something that's different. But yeah, I think we can do whatever. I would agree with you though that we can vote on this tonight. I don't know that there's anything in there that's kind of scary and different. But at the same time, you can get updates or your goals as you establish the goals and the pieces that should give indication to the committee as to what you're looking for. Right?
And at the same time, we need to hear from the committee as to from the community as to what they're looking for. So it goes both ways. So.
I don't want to delay it.
I'm okay the way it is.
All right.
So
All right. So
I
do
do
we
want to
have
just clarify, because we want to make sure we heard this correctly, because there, as Ms. Meyer has stated, so the end date for the committee will be the second meeting in May. If we can bring it, if the committee feels that we can bring that recommendation sooner, then we will. Is that?
That would be great.
Then I think we've met the governing board policy. Thank you.
All right. So do I have a motion to reconvene the 2019 Citizens Advisory Committee to include prior governing board appointed committee members with the provision the superintendent could appoint additional members to replace non-returning members or to increase perspective or expertise if needed?
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
I second.
move it. Okay.
And so just one clarity, does that motion include everything we discussed?
It includes what's written on there.
Read back the motion.
What I would say is that you need to amend your motion
Okay.
with those specific things that you just.
All right. So I move that
So
we.
there's a motion and a second, so we have to amend.
Okay.
So
So we're going to amend the current motion to include language to say that if possible, we would like to move the deadline back to April.
no, to May.
Or, I mean, we already know it's, I mean, the general is May, so I thought we were trying to say that we would like to move it more expediently if possible. Is that our plan?
Right, but the motion would be to bring it for the second meeting in May.
Oh, okay.
With the motion doesn't, we understand that if we can bring it to you sooner, we will.
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't have to be in the motion.
What am I amending?
One.
Do I need to amend something then?
So what are we amending?
Try it again.
Okay.
Try the motion again. Start from the beginning.
Oh, okay. Okay. I move that we reconvene the 2019 Citizens Advisory Committee to include prior governing board appointed committee members with the provision the superintendent could appoint additional members to replace non-returning members or to increase perspective or expertise if needed by the final governing board member meeting in May 2020.
I second that. Like driving stick. All right, a motion and a second.
Who motioned, please?
Miss Underhill.
Ms. Underhill.
Oh, yeah, I think I'll-
Okay, the motion passes 4-0. All right. Moving right along to item 11, we have informational reports. Item 11.1 is the Budget Facilities Planning and Construction Report, which is available for viewing online. Item 11.2 is the district budget report for the month of November 2019. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda. I'll look over here. District budget report for the month, of November 2019, which is also online. The district enrollment report for the month of November 2019. The report on upcoming meetings and events, if you want to look at that. Ooh, lots of things are upcoming. Including these, we want to highlight all of them, but obviously the Sunrise Mountain Arts Center ribbon cutting is exciting and coming up. The Peoria Education Foundation Scholarship and Grants Reception, be sure to mark your calendars for that, and of course, spring break. Okay? And then legislative, state, and local updates. Ms. Myers?
Good evening again, Mrs. Underhill, members of the governing board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson. Last week, the governor provided his State of the State address, and on Friday, Governor Ducey published his proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. The budget assumes a fiscal year 2020 ending cash balance of $671 million and leaves fiscal year 2021 with a year-end cash balance of $165.4 million. The state is bolstered right now by healthier than expected state revenue projections, which are being included in the proposed budget. And the governor expects that the budget will be over $12 billion with a focus on public safety and education. The governor emphasized that $608 million in new spending will be for K-12 education. Some of the budget incentives, or initiatives rather, include $175 million to fulfill the 20% by 2020 teacher pay plan for classroom teachers, $145 million in funding for enrollment growth, inflation, and other technical adjustments, $136 million to accelerate the restoration of district additional assistance, $108 million for school facilities board building renewal grants, and something that's new, $44 million for Project Rocket, a program designed to close the achievement gap for low-income schools. $38 million is being allocated for additional school resource officers, counselors, and social workers, and $35 million to expand results-based funding. So that's a summary of some of the budget initiatives. The proposed budget will not be final and will not be adopted for next year until state lawmakers agree on a final budget before the legislative session can adjourn. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, other business. Did the board members, did anybody have or want to readdress any of the agenda items? Mrs. Doan? Ms. A.R. Martinez? No. Ms. Pingarelli? Okay, me neither. Draft agenda for the next meeting. Well, we talked about a few things that'll be on there, but you can see that there. We'll be filling that out. And then call for any future items for the governing board agendas. Ms. Pingarelli? No. Ms. Sehar Martinez? No. Ms. Doan? No. Okay. Continuing to work on that list. All right. And with that, I just need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Yay.
Yes. And I gotta study.
I need a punch.